Looks like my gimbal got, I don't know, taken, stolen. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to talk about the rise of the Antichrist today. There's a lot of information all throughout the Word about where he comes from. You know, we've talked about his paternal and maternal origins, and then now I want to talk about his rise, and we'll go back to Daniel 11. So from Daniel 21 through 23, and I'll read this translation from the doctor. Ichthus.com, ICHTHYS.com. I spelled that wrong last time, and then I noted it in the notes, but I just wanted to put that out there. Very important. That's where this is coming from, specifically under the Antichrist and his kingdom in the Coming Tribulation series, Part 3b. So let's read his translation of Daniel 11, 21 through 23. And there will arise in his place, talking specifically about the king of the north and the king of the south's battle in Daniel 11. This is proffered as immediately occurring right after the destruction of the king of the south, but then it brings it back. It's basically two prophecies in one. It's describing what Antiochus or whatever the heck his name was back then, his behavior, and it's also specifically pointing out what he did to come to power, because it has the strongest corollary to how the beast is going to do his thing. So, and there will arise in his place a man of contempt upon whom they will not bestow the honor of kingship. In other words, he will not come to power in a legal, conventional way. Rather, he will come to power through seductive methods and will take control of his kingdom, in this case Mystery Babylon, by means of duplicity. Now it is from him that the floodwaters, armies of Daniel, will pour forth and be shattered at Armageddon, for he is even the prince of the covenant. In other words, he's the author of the pseudo-messianic peace treaty with Israel in Daniel 9:27. After men have leagued themselves to him, he will set his conspiracy in motion and will grow in power and become very strong, even though his faction is small. So it mentions twice in this Daniel 11 readout that he gets to power by only a few people. You know, and then the numbers of people on the earth right now are so great that, I mean, yes, it could be the Davos group, but again, I have a feeling they're too on the nose, they're too obvious that they're villains, and I think they're the counterforce that the Antichrist, or one of the counterforces that the Antichrist is supposed to come in and save us from. So let's see here. Here's a synopsis of verses 21 through 45, so you can kind of see a breakdown as to how Antiochus relates to Antichrist and how his behavior translates over into Revelation, because we'll see the parallel between Daniel 11, 30, 29, 29 and 30, and their relative retelling in the book of Revelation 13. So verse 21, synopsis of the beast's career, part 1. His rise to power and his methodology in seizing control of Mystery Babylon. Pretty straightforward. Verse 22, synopsis of the beast's career, part 2. Mobilization and destruction at Armageddon. Identification of Antichrist as the prophesied prince of the covenant. In this case, the fake covenant, the one that's supposed to be in replacement of Christ, Antichrist. Verse 23, returns to the chronological order by reprising Antichrist's methods and gaining control of Mystery Babylon. This is where they note, again, that small group of people and that he gets in a slippery manner. Verse 24, the seizure of the 7 kingdoms, revived Rome, consolidation of power and preparation for attacking the Southern Alliance. He is the little horn that springs up underneath 3 horns and uproots them. So the 3 horns that are uprooted are the 3 kings of the south that he is working in allegiance with against the purported king of the south, which we'll talk about that, by the way. One way of looking at the king of the south in this prophecy is he is the false prophet. He is likely the one that the false Christ, or antichrist, if you will. So the actual Antichrist is probably going to claim that this southern king, the king of the south, is in fact the Antichrist, and it's part of his crusade to go against him, and so on. It'll be all part of the ploy. We're going to talk about the king of the south specifically, how he's set up by the 3 horns of the south, and how, well, he's already been described. Hamid Karzai at the UN's Security Council, I want to say 2014, 2015-ish, I'm not exact, admitted out loud to the world that the Mahdi would come. I mean, anybody who's familiar with Islamic end times theology, the Mahdi is basically their version of Jesus, if you will. But Jesus exists in Islam, strangely, but they're all supposedly brothers and friends in the end. But he comes and oversees, supposedly, according to the lore, he oversees Islam's takeover of the Christian and Jewish world and subjugation of those two accordingly. Let's go back to this. So Verses 25 through 28 describe the first campaign against the three kingdoms, the Southern Alliance. In other words, unless something happens before then, technically, I guess, World War III. That will be the war that occurs in Egypt. Let's see here. Verses 36 through 39 specifically describes the reign of Antichrist during the tribulation. This is a direct parallel to Revelation 13:5 through 8. I missed one. Verses 30b through 35 describe the attempted assassination of Antichrist, his putative resuscitation, and his resultant persecution of Israel, his anger and vented rage back at the holy people. Again, Revelation 13:3, another direct parallel. Very, very much, I think, impossible to not see those as talking about the exact same event. Let's see. Verses 40 through 43, Daniel 11:40-43, reprises the Antichrist's victory over the Southern Alliance during the tribulation's first half, giving a more detailed account of the second campaign. And verse 44 is the departure of Antichrist from Israel to secure his kingdom following the fifth bowl judgment. Basically, the rumblings of rebellion, because after a while the predations of the beast's empire are eventually going to get even to his own followers, I'm sure. The seventh bowl judgment, basically the last judgment before the Lord arrives, is the utter destruction of Babylon. One could assume, and that my teacher assumes this, and it makes sense to me, that there will be a bit of a rebellion against the Antichrist and his kingdom towards the end. It also harkens back to the verses in Isaiah, Jeremiah, so on, talking about how the gates of the jails in Babylon, are thrown open, and not to look back, and to head straight for the Lord and run like heck. Some of those verses were actually written after the Babylonian captivity. Specifically, again, dual application, talking about the Babylonian captives and then eventually the future Babylonian captives. So indirectly, the Bible's kind of pointing towards there being the remaining, perhaps the whole remaining remnant being here in Babylon. Not real happy about that, because that means the rest of the world has to suffer the full force of the predations and whatnot. But let's see. After verse 44, it basically describes him going up against the King of Kings, the Prince of Princes, and being shattered apart from human agency. God is going to kill him. Let's see. So these three descriptions, these are actually verbiage from the original, the Hebrew, from Daniel 11. And specifically, the doctor goes through three particular terms that have very pointed qualities of Antichrist's character that apply specifically to his rise. In other words, what he uses to rise. So here's the quick description. So, although the beast will first come to rule Mystery Babylon, the nation in the typology here that parallels Antiochus's kingdom, the way in which he comes to power will be at odds with the normal manner of succession. Given the Byzantine machinations and conspiracies that govern successions in the kingdoms of the Diadochi in general, the Greek leaders after Alexander, if you don't know, this is quite a statement. Moreover, these verses spell out that Antichrist's seizure of power will be, 1, through seductive methods. The Hebrew word is, and I'm going to butcher this, I'm sure, bishalva, a phrase which focuses on Antichrist's methods and specifically his ability to put all potential opponents at ease and off guard with the unexpectedness of his actions. Another variation of this is bashilai in 2 Samuel 3:27. Number 2, by means of duplicity. In Hebrew, this is a long one, I'm pretty sure I got it though, probably not. Bakalak lakof, a phrase which brings out the slipperiness and the deceptiveness of all of Antichrist's pronouncements, and especially his flattery of every audience in every segment of society, designed to disarm one and all for his own evil purposes. And, number 3, setting in motion a conspiracy, mirma, a word which emphasizes the treachery involved in his coup, undertaken in concert with the band of followers who have leagued together with him. I'm going to keep going. These statements make it clear that the beast's accession to power will come via some sort of coup d'etat, or at the very least, in a manner far outside the norm for his native country of Mystery Babylon. For believers who are carefully observing the signs, the non-traditional, conspiratorial, and a flat-out illegal manner in which the beast initially gains power will be a clear indication that he is, in fact, the Antichrist. I'm going to go one more. It's good stuff. You guys should read this. Evident in the passage above is a seizure of power, not unlike many of which have occurred in the past. The Bolshevik and Nazi seizures of power providing two particularly instructive parallels. A small group of dedicated and highly organized conspirators clustered around a charismatic leader prepared to use any and all means of deception and propaganda in order to seize power at an opportune moment in a scenario particularly familiar to students of 20th century history. So, there's a lot to be said about all that. Essentially, you guys kind of get a pretty clear picture. Those of us that are paying attention, that aren't caught up by the Great Deception, are easily going to be able to see that he takes over power here. He won't even need to necessarily take the presidency, right? The president could just say, Order 50 or 51 or whatever nonsense they've used to subvert our Constitution. Give him basically all executive power. He'll go over, talk kindly to all the leaders in Europe, basically take over for them. All the while, there is this underlying conspiracy with the kings of the South that is already pre-set up. They're like bowling pins. You just got to knock them down. I think the whole purpose is to, all of it is consolidating and bringing people under the beast's power. But even that, we know, according to the Daniel prophecies about the statue and the later kingdoms where the peoples just don't match. So regardless of whether or not, regardless of when he does this, because he will, it's not actually going to succeed. And actually, I think watching the Mahdi fail will probably bring about a large number of actual believers in the Islamic world, but that remains to be seen. We'll see what's going on. Videos are going to be like this for a minute. Hopefully it's better. It's a lot more stable, but it doesn't move with me. So I'll do what I can to just be consistent and straightforward, and I hope you guys are having a great day. If you have any ideas, I don't expect to get a lot of interaction, to be honest with you, because this is stuff that empties churches. This is really depressing and sad and not nice, but it's true. So if you guys have any ideas, I'm just going to keep basically breaking out these topics piece by piece and going over them as deeply as I can. And time is near. If I had a trumpet, I'd be on a hillside. That's what it feels like, by the way. I don't even know what to call this. What is my ministry? Warning? It's the only thing I can think of. I was a professional trumpet player in high school. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. A great day in the Lord, of course. That means you're going to be attacked. You're going to be maligned. You're probably going to have equipment get stolen or lost for you, even though you didn't do anything. Praying for you guys. If you would pray for me, it's never easy. If you don't, though, I completely understand, because I don't like me either. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon.